People in East Palestine, Ohio, report that they've been getting sicker in recent days. It could have something to do with the fact that the water there is filled with poison. That's why the residents of East Palestine hired Scott Smith to do independent testing on the water and soil. He's the chief sustainability officer of Eco Integrated Technologies. His results were accepted by the EPA, and Scott Smith joins us now from East Palestine. Scott, great to have you with us. As we mentioned, you were hired independently by some residents there in Ohio to see what's in their water, see what's in their soil, see what's in their air. What did you find?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Will. It's great to be here. And we found dioxins, but before that, I want to tell you something. 17 years ago, my business and 100 employees' jobs were wiped out in oil and chemical contaminated waters. That's when I realized that water testing and remediation were seriously flawed. And ever since this experience, I go into communities affected by water contamination, and I help people get the truth so they don't have to go through what I went through. And here's the main lesson. You can't find what you don't look for. We started looking for dioxins last week in February. Well, we got initial results back. We got the water results back. We don't even have the soil and air. And we found dioxins. And dioxins essentially are the fentanyl of chemicals. And why? Because they're measured in parts per quadrillion. As much, I've never heard of parts per quadrillion, and I've been doing this for a long time. Just to put it in perspective, lead, metals, other chemicals are measured in parts per billion or parts per million. 1 part per quadrillion is equivalent, if you have 20 trillion pennies, to 1 penny. That's how sensitive it is.
And what is the health risk of dioxins?
Well, it's related to Agent Orange, and if you can look it up, I'm not a toxicologist. I've got a lot of experts. We have a great team. Cancer, it's very dangerous to pregnant women, and a whole host of other issues. And I can tell you what separates this from other experiences I've been to, people are getting sicker by the day. Children are spitting up, coughing up blood. I saw pictures today when I was with residents.
So, Scott, you mentioned you can't find what you don't look for. You looked for dioxins. You've been doing this, as you mentioned, I think you said some 60-odd incidences you have investigated independently since the one that you lived through yourself. And I know you've said this, Scott, that has in turn given you the playbook for how these things are normally handled by the government, the EPA, by private corporations that do the testing. What is the playbook?
Yeah, the playbook is, let there be no doubt about it, the public relations people are calling all the shots. And I can tell you right now, the playbook is going to be dioxins are ubiquitous in the environment. And I don't even need to get the rest of the results, because I can tell you right now, children spitting up blood, people with headaches, getting sicker, that was not ubiquitous in health symptoms in this environment. The good news is we're going to find the truth, and we're going to find out what people have been exposed to, and they'll be able to go to the doctors and get help, and this will be able to be cleaned up properly.
Oh, that's where I want to finally arrive at in our conversation, Scott. I know you tested furnace filters because it's the greatest indication of what's in the air and what people have actually inhaled. I know you're going to look at water and soil as well. And I appreciate you're not a toxicologist. I appreciate the limits of your own expertise, but having done this 60 times, to your point, what is your outlook for East Palestine, Ohio? Is it that the dioxins can be removed and people can again live in this village? Or what is the prescription for the cure here in this village and for these people?
Well, there's a great expert team. You got to solve the problem. Like Einstein said, you got to admit there's a problem, and then we can solve it. We need to admit there's a problem here and work together. I also want to say furnace filters. You want to know what people were breathing in their lungs? The furnace filter is the closest thing to opening up someone's lung. And I want to tell you a quick story. Last night I was at a community fair with Courtney Miller and other residents. We went from the EPA table to the railroad table to the CTEH, that's the contractor. We went to the EPA, they said, we're not testing furnace filters, the railroad is. We went to the railroad, they said, we're not testing furnace filters, CTEH is. So we did that round robin, and we found out there may be other people testing furnace filters, but we're gonna get all these furnace filter results in over the next 15 to 30 days.
Well, I appreciate the note of optimism, by the way, Scott. In order to correct a problem, you have to accurately diagnose it. But I hear you with that note of optimism that once it's accurately diagnosed, this village can be saved, this village can be cleaned. I heard that earlier in our conversation. I think that's an important note of optimism. This is important information. Your independent analysis is appreciated. Thank you for sharing it here tonight on Tucker Carlson Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right.